going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of JR Takes. As always, Ryan and I coming at you with the latest NFL news and Seattle news, even though, of course, we are left with only two teams. The Chiefs being one of them. I knew I should have taken them to go to the Super Bowl, probably win it, but I just didn't want to. And
you got to try to will the things you want a little bit here and there. You know, I try to thread the needle between what I think is going to happen and what I want to happen. Mm-hmm. But I really did also just think that the Bills were going to beat them. I mean, they beat them earlier in the season. They proved that they could do it. Yeah, it's just we live in the darkest timeline, my friend.
I also have to say, before we get into like all the bullshit about the Chiefs, I feel like I have not heard one person in the media that like has a contractual like obligation to a company. I don't think I've heard one person in media like call out the Chiefs for the bullshit that they're winning on.
Oh, really?
Have you?
I've seen Adam Schefter post some things, but that was on Twitter. That wasn't like on a segment on
Yeah, but
ESPN
I mean, he's not really like he's not. I feel like he's a journalist. He's not really like representing like Fox or anything like that.
Right.
Which is like what I'm talking about. Like I feel like no one has the balls to be like, yeah, this is ridiculous, the calls the Chiefs are getting. Everyone is just like turning a blind eye, and it's just like, okay, I guess this is the world we live in where no one wants to like I guess have any integrity and agree with what all the fans are seeing with their eyes.
Yeah, I want to say on the one hand, that's probably a mandate from the people who sign their paychecks.
Sure.
But on the other hand, it's also, I feel like in that world, people in part maybe just don't want to believe that one team is getting favorable calls. And it may just, like, it could all just be a string of coincidences that keep working out in the Chiefs' favor. It is that simple. But the amount of, as you said on our podcast last time, the amount of times where a huge call on a 50-50 play or just a missed call or a call that didn't need to be called happened for the Chiefs in their favor has been insane. Like this whole season and in the playoffs in particular, you had Troy Aikman audibly say, "Oh, come on," in the Texans game with that roughing the passer penalty. And basically everyone on the broadcast was like, I think Allen's got it on that fourth down sneak play. And
yeah.
You look at the screenshot. I don't know if you have that up, Colby, but like, I mean, the 1-7 is clearly on the 40-yard line.
I got this, though.
That's not going to help anything. That's way worse.
Okay. In fact, you're fired.
No, but I mean, it's just, and it's also unfortunate because, you know, it was a fantastic game. It was everything you could want out of a conference championship between two heavyweights like that, where it goes down to the last drive and everything. But it's such a deflating feeling to think like, oh man, if they had just called this correctly, things would have been different. You know?
Well, okay, and trust me, like, I don't know. I don't know what to say about how this is going to make me look, but say what you want. Like, sure, the Chiefs can win 3 Super Bowls in a row. Are we going to remember them as being the greatest team of all time with the refs having a hand in most of their wins? I'm interested to see 10 years down the road if we're discussing this Chiefs dynasty as the greatest dynasty of all time, or are people going to remember, oh yeah, that was the Patrick Mahomes team that like got all the calls and were basically gifted 3 championships.
Well, I mean, people talk about the tuck rule with Brady, I guess, is one counter to that. Like some segment of the fan base in the NFL world still brings that up, and yeah, that was bullshit. Like that was bad. That's just as bad today as it was 22 years ago or whatever, 23 years ago. But the just like that was one call in one game. I mean, this has just felt like a ongoing theme going all the way back to 2 years ago, that hold on the Eagles for them to win that Super Bowl.
And Was that when Travis and Taylor were dating yet? Because
I don't think so. I think that was last year.
like a lot of this can just be go back to when they started dating, and you can look at all of like the refs shifting their motives. I swear, it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, well, like, for example, in 2019 when they beat the 49ers, I was rooting for them. I mean, it kind of seemed like most of the NFL world was at the time because Mahomes was this insane, exciting new player, and it was on the tail end of Brady's dominance. But I don't know. The thing is, like, it is definitely true that you get fatigued from watching the same team win and the same players win over and over again.
if I have to hear another media person tell me I'm getting Chiefs fatigue,
Well, I mean, it's definitely part of it. It's not the whole story. I mean, I think what we've been saying is valid. Like, it's bullshit, the amount of favorable calls in huge situations they've gotten this year. But, like, it's both of those things is what I'm trying to say. So that's why I think this feels so particularly awful. And think about it this way. We basically got off the Tom Brady dynasty for, you know, a good 15, 20 years, and immediately we're thrown into this new one.
yeah,
So the NFL world hasn't really been that interesting Super Bowl-wise in large part for like 2 decades because it's been like 10 – no, I don't even think it's been 10 quarterbacks. It's probably been like 8 or 9 max. I don't really want to take the time to add them up right now, but you've seen a lot of the same faces for many years.
yeah, and it sucks. I don't know. I want the Chiefs to lose next week. Next week, I guess. I think the only way the Eagles have a chance is if they just run the ball 40 times.
Well, I mean, going back to that game, like I thought the Eagles were going to win because the Commanders' run defense was bad. And even accounting for that, I did not think they would allow 50-plus points and Saquon to just own them for 4 quarters. You had Will Shipley come in the fourth quarter and get like 70 yards. Like the Eagles' run game and that offensive line is just legit. So I think, I mean, the Bills with James Cook, like they have a good run game, and I think it was a mistake to abandon that in the late stages of that game last Sunday. But I don't think they've really had to deal with anything like this Eagles offense running the ball. I mean, they played Derrick Henry, but they also almost lost that game. So I think it gives the Eagles a pretty good chance. I think if they try to throw it up and down the yard with Jalen Hurts, like it's good night.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I feel like the Chiefs. Who did they even play in the NFC this year?
Who
AFC
did
West?
they play?
Who the hell did they play? Oh, they played us. No,
they didn't play
No.
us.
we played Denver, and that was the only AFC West team, right?
Yeah, I am struggling to remember who the Chiefs played on the NFC side. I think they played the NFC South because they played Bryce Young and he almost beat them, remember?
Oh, that's right.
So they played like the worst NFC conference or division.
Yeah. God, the AFC is so pathetic. I just hate the AFC. They're like the reason why we just never have parity because there's so many bad teams in that league.
I do feel like in the NFC, it's been a lot more like variety of teams that have been making a run at it.
I mean, even the bad teams, like the Bears are the worst team in the NFC, and so many people give a shit about the Bears. It's crazy. But like Duval. Like, you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's the guy you're going with?
The AFC South is horrible. The AFC East, at least half that division has been horrible like my whole life. The AFC North, pretty good, but it has the Browns. Browns is going to brown. And then the AFC West, like, I mean, they all just get cucked by Mahomes every year now. So
And they have like 4 crazy coaches now in that division. So
yeah, I guess sticking in the division, you want to talk a little more about Pete Carroll at all? Did you watch his press conference?
not really. I heard Marshawn yell Raiders, but that was about it.
Yeah, I've heard a rumor that they're looking to bring back Darrell Bevell as
I heard that
offensive
today,
coordinator.
too.
I think that'd be interesting because I remember towards the end of the Bevell run with the Seahawks, I was pretty sick of him because I felt like we were doing screens to Jermaine Kearse every play and losing 2 yards.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's the only offensive coordinator that's ever won us a Super Bowl. And he had like a top 5 scoring offense, I believe, 3 times with us. So he's got some stuff. I think he's had some success with like the Lions and a number of other teams as well. So I don't think it'd be a bad hire, and it makes it even more interesting to think about them maybe getting Wilson. But we'll see. I really doubt the Steelers will end up having Wilson and Fields again this next year. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I think. I think you got to pick one.
I'd be okay with trading Geno to the Raiders if the Raiders were interested.
What do you
depending on what we would get for him?
I don't know.
You think we could get a first for him?
I think even if we get there first, like, okay, are we going to try to get like Cam Ward or something? Because I feel like Cam Ward and Shador are going to be gone by the time the Raiders
No,
pick.
I don't think you get a quarterback. I think you get another defensive piece or an offensive lineman, and then next year we get a quarterback and have Sam Howell start, win like 4 games. Then we have a top pick for quarterback. I'm just tired of being in quarterback purgatory where we're in
I don't really
where
feel
we're
like
finishing 18th every year. We've done it 3 years in a row.
I just don't really agree, though. I think we've had a good quarterback for the last 3 years. I think we've had a quarterback that's played probably, if you take every quarterback that's played in the last 3 years and line up their stats, I guarantee you Geno's top 10 in most of the notable ones. I think we've had the worst offensive line in the league for the last 3 years, and that's the thing that's holding this roster back. If we had a bad team around Geno, I'd be like, yeah, trade him. But I think we got a lot of good young pieces that are on rookie contracts, and if we waste a year of that by going 4-13, 5-12, or whatever, you just wasted. Like people talk about the rookie quarterback contract, like that's the end all be all. But you have to have young players kind of across your roster to make it achievable to fill out a good team. That's why when you have teams like the Jaguars, for example, they're like the biggest spenders in free agency. But then they overspend on one position and just end up sucking year after year after year. So I don't know. I think if you want to draft a quarterback this year, I'm like fine with that. There will be guys in the middle rounds, and who knows? Russell Wilson was a 3rd round pick. I don't think there's a guy like that in this draft, but you really never know. I didn't think Jaden Daniels would be this good to start off. So
Yeah.
definitely not opposed to it. I just feel like this isn't a great class for it. And B, like I'm just not a big believer in the let's suck strategy, because I think for building a team's culture and identity and all that stuff that does matter, I think it does more harm than good to suck ass that bad.
Sure. I guess I'm like, from my perspective, I've seen enough. 3 years, and we're still 1 game over 500 team with Geno. I guess I just don't think we can win a Super Bowl with him at the helm, is my angle where I'm coming from. But that's not saying I think there's an answer in this draft, or maybe even in next year's draft. I don't know. But I guess I'm just like, do I really think if we add a guard or another tackle, that's gonna like give us a couple more wins and potentially an easier path in the playoffs? I don't know if I believe that, but
Well, it's not just going to be one player. Like, you got to, I mean, think of when we won the Super Bowl last time. We got a bunch of really good players with the span of like 3 years. And I think in the last 2 off seasons, we've added a bunch of really good players. So I think they got to, I mean, last year's draft was okay, I think, compared to the 22 and 23 draft. Definitely not as good. I mean, you had our 2nd pick in the draft to ride the bench all season in Christian Hayes. But I think, like, you got to nail this draft and then clear up some cap space and sign a couple players. And, we're a couple dumb mistakes away from being a 12-win team just last year. We were not that far off from it. Just that first Rams game and the Giants game in particular, you flip the result of those. Easily could have happened. 12-win team, NFC West champs. And we could be having a totally different conversation right now. But we can't take a step backward. I think if they do, then you move on from Geno and you move on from John Schneider. But I think McDonald is the guy. Even though it's been 1 season, like I just
don't
feel like
know if
he's
I can
shown a
handle
lot.
seeing another 10-7 or 9-8 season. Like a 4th year in a row of that, like you have to do something, I think. Because otherwise you're just staying in the same spot. You're not getting worse. You're not getting worse and then making up for it the next year with the draft. It's like you're just kind of staying idle.
That's fair. I mean, that's kind of what the Steelers have been for a long time.
Yeah, I don't want to be them. Do you want to? They haven't won a playoff game in like a decade.
I know, and I mean, we've only won one playoff game since 2015. And that was against the Eagles practice squad. So
yeah,
when you think about
Wasn't
it's
Josh
like
McCown playing quarterback.
Yeah, and we barely beat them.
So I don't even really count that. Come on, like that's
yeah. It's I mean, like I'm with you on a lot of these points. Like I feel like, you know, if we hadn't shown so many good signs last year, and if I hadn't seen Gino do so many good things, I'd be like, yeah, let's just fucking blow this up. But I really do think this team is close. And maybe I'm wrong, and if they suck next year, then, like, good. Let's just suck and hope for bigger and better things in the future. But
I don't want us to necessarily suck or tank or anything like that. I'm just like, okay, fine. We'll go another year with Gino. But, like, if we are in that 10-win realm, I'm just like, dude, I can't do another year of this, a fifth year.
I think that's fair. I think this is the last ride.
Yeah.
Unless, you know, we, like, win the fucking... And even then, it's like, okay, then maybe one more year max. Like, I think Gino at his age, like, he still moves really well, and he's, like, in his kind of prime because he hasn't taken that many hits in his career and had to play that much. But age is still age, and he's moving into his late 30s. So I don't think it makes sense to be like, oh, we're going to re-sign him to a 5-year deal. I think that would be a foolish decision.
Well, also, like, I think maybe I'm, like, spoiled or something. I don't know what the word is, but, like, years of watching Russ do his thing and, like, never really having doubt in him that, like, I always thought he was going to get it done. I do not feel that at all with Gino. Do you? Like,
I mean, he's got, like, more fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives than I think anybody in the last two
okay, I guess,
seasons.
yeah, but, like, what doesn't really have anything to show for it. I mean, one playoff appearance, one loss. I mean, you can stack all the fourth quarter comebacks you want. It hasn't really resulted in anything past one playoff appearance.
But I feel like if you're putting a whole team stat, which is wins, playoff appearance, everything on one player, it's not really a fair measure of how they've been playing. I think if we had, like, league average quarterback play last year behind the line that we had, we would have been like a 5-win, 6-win team.
So I guess my question to you is, like, do you feel when you watch Gino, do you feel that same, like, hope that you had when you watched Russ, for example?
Well, no. Prime Russ is, like, one of the most special players I've ever watched. But let me counter that with this. When you watch Jalen Hurts, do you feel like you're watching a special player that is capable of taking over a game?
Not right now.
Because he's going to his second Super
I did
Bowl.
2 years ago.
I mean, he did have a good run 2 years ago, but, like, Saquon is the player of that team. And AJ,
I agree with that.
Saquon and AJ Brown are the heroes of that offense. So I don't think you necessarily need to have that. Like, it's easier, sure, but it's not the only way to do it. And I think, like, I mean, granted, it's not the best example because the Lions shit their pants against the Commanders, but like, I mean, people are talking about Jared Goff like he's a hero right now. He hit similar to Hurts. He's playing behind one of the best lines in football, and that I think that's shown how much that can elevate everyone around them. So
Yeah, I mean, I like Gino. Like, I'm a Gino supporter. I like him as our quarterback, but I'm just like, I guess when I watch these other teams like the Chiefs, the Bills, even the fucking Bengals, I'm just like,
yeah,
man,
I mean,
it would be nice to have, like, a younger elite quarterback. And, like, I mean, because when we had Russ back in 2012, 2013, like, I mean, think back on the days of being a 2013 Seahawks fan. Like, wow, there is so much hope on the horizon for this team, and, like, there's so much potential. Granted, we didn't win another Super Bowl, but
We should have.
We at least made it back the following year. And
Yeah, I mean, everyone and their mother knows we should have won that game, but yeah, I'm totally with you. Just the problem is those guys don't really grow on trees, and we haven't been in a situation to get one in a long time. And even Russ, we got him in the third round. Like, that was a all-time steal to do that. So I think the onus is on John Schneider to fucking figure this thing out. There are some guys, like, granted, I don't think they should start year one, but that quarterback for Ohio State, Will Howard, he's got some stuff. I wouldn't we've drafted one quarterback since Russ, and his name was, I don't even fucking remember because he didn't make the team. But it was in like 20.
Wasn't Keith Price, was it?
No. I think he did get signed as an undrafted rookie free agent for a preseason, but he didn't even, or it might not even have been Keith Price. It might have been the other guy. One of the UW guys was on the roster for like a minute.
Yeah.
But
it was Ellinger? No, it wasn't Sam Ellinger. That was a different guy.
I can't remember.
It was Sam something. Or no. Or maybe the guy had an E for his last. I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I just need the list in front of me because I can't even remember the guy we drafted. But that was a whole saga. But point being, when we signed John Schneider 15 fucking years ago, he was like, yeah, I come from Green Bay. We draft quarterbacks all the time. I think we'll do that here. Dude, you've done it twice. And in the last 8 years, you've done it 0 times. Like, let's take a shot on a guy in the third, fourth round, even the second round. Fuck it. I don't care. If you think you can make something out of Jalen Milroe, do it. Like,
I hope we don't draft Jalen Milroe.
I hope so too. But also, if we do, I'll be like, I mean, I would feel better about it if we had Pete still, because I feel like he's a really good developer of quarterbacks. But
yeah,
what's funny is I feel like, and like I was totally guilty of this. Like, I was in love with Anthony Richardson coming out of the draft because
you were
big, fast guy with strong arm.
I was like, no, I don't want him. And you were like, please let me have him.
Yeah, and I have learned. I am willing to admit my mistakes and learn from them. That was stupid. He sucks. Like, yes, he's still big, strong, and fast, and could throw it 75 yards on his tippy toes or whatever, but, like, he's a bad quarterback. That's exactly what Jalen Milroe is right now. So, like, I mean, if it's kind of like, imagine taking Anthony Richardson at 5. Not happy about it, but imagine doing basically the same thing at, like, 62 or 70. Like, I don't want to do that, but I wouldn't hate it. He is a good runner. That's something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not advocating for getting Milroe. I'm just saying, like take a fucking chance.
Didn't learn anything and he wanted Milroe.
Well, okay, first of all, are we just writing off Sam Howell? Is his career toast? Are we done with him? Because
We shot from that one play.
It was real bad. I mean, like, I'm not writing him off, but, like, I went from, like it was an all-time stock market crash for me when he got playing time against the Packers.
Packers.
I've seen a lot of backup quarterbacks come in and play in relief, and I'm not trying to be mean to Sam Howell. I don't know if I've ever seen someone come in and look worse than how he looked. And it's like I
don't know, man. Jordan Love looked really bad when he came in for Aaron Rodgers.
I honestly don't even remember what he looked like.
You remember that? When there was a game against the Chiefs where he looked like not an NFL player.
Yeah.
And I know that because I had him in fantasy like 4 years ago when we did our draft for the first time in Dynasty. And I was like, wow, this guy sucks. I'm gonna let him go. And then I did, and now he's a great player. So
crazy idea. A guy we talked about when we first started this podcast, Malik Willis, played really well for the Packers last season. What if we flip a mid-rounder or late rounder for him?
I would do a late rounder for sure.
Yeah,
but
like 6th or something? A 6th in Sam?
Yeah, I just wonder how much of the Malik Willis was Matt LaFleur.
I think a lot of Jordan Love is Matt LaFleur, to be honest. Like, I was watching a video of a guy kind of dissecting the Packers offense, and he's basically was just explaining how he designs that thing to just use the fact that Jordan Love has a good arm, but not really have to make him do like we were, for example, we were making Geno drop back and read the defense and hit a guy over and over and over and over again last year. Every time Jordan Love had to do that this year, I think he had like 2 touchdowns and like 9 picks when he was doing straight dropbacks, where it's like I'm under center, do a 3-step drop, 5-step drop, whatever, and like read the defense, hit a guy. Awful. But when they did play action, he could hit guys deep and intermediate. He was great.
So weird how Jordan Love is like either amazing or he's Will Levis.
Yeah. It's funny how much of quarterbacking is dependent on like the guys around him and also the guys calling the plays. Like there's plenty of guys who I thought were going to be good and then sucked in bad situations. Then you go to a better situation, they look way better.
Like Sam Darnold.
Yeah, that's exactly who I was about to bring up. I thought he was straight ass. And it's funny, like, I think he's on the same team because he was on the Daniel Jones is on the Vikings currently now, right? Like, I think Daniel Jones sucks, but, like, he was also in New York. Like, maybe he's not so bad. I don't know. It's just, I feel like what's happened with, like, Baker and Geno and Sam Darnold over the last couple of years here, it's really kind of opened up the possibilities for a lot of these guys that have got drafted high.
I kind of think I don't think it's just an exact reflection on all of those franchises that drafted those players.
Yeah.
Because where are they now? Still struggling to find a quarterback. And where are these quarterbacks? They're thriving on other teams.
What's really funny is with Geno and Darnold, you have the Jets, and then with Baker, you have the Browns, which like are 2 of the worst teams that I've watched in my 20 years of watching football. So yeah, I mean it just kind of goes to show the whole like poverty franchise thing. It's not just a meme, like it's just kind of true.
Well, and like think about like Justin Fields. He like the Bears, terrible. And then he goes to Pittsburgh. I mean, granted he only played 4 games or something like that, 5 games.
Yeah, 4 or 5 or 6, something like
that. But
I
mean, he was still in a much better situation than he was in Chicago.
And he played better. He at least as a passer, he played better than he ever had.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing like I don't know the upcoming draft, this past draft, just seeing if these franchises repeat history. I mean, I'm sure they will because they've been doing it for decades upon decades, but it'll be funny to see if like 5 years from now, if we're having the conversation of like if Shedeur Sanders, like say he goes to Cleveland. I doubt that prime time would let him do that, but it would just be funny if the poverty's still can't figure out quarterback.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes down to ownership and management too. Like it's a top-down thing from my experience. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch how not only the guys that are coming in this year, but how this last batch of rookies looked. Because one thing I've noticed, like C.J. Stroud, for example, a lot of guys look really good to start off, and then when an off season comes and teams get a whole season of film to watch, they're like, oh, this guy sucks at this. Let's do this every play against them. And then they struggle the next year. Like, it's hard in the NFL to keep being consistent.
It's crazy to me that, like, a year ago, C.J. Stroud was, like, on top of the world as far as who he was and what he'd done in the league and what potential he had. And then Bryce Young was like, is this guy going to be on a roster a year from now?
Yeah.
And now it's like 180'd for both of them. C.J. Stroud had a horrible season. Granted, they made the playoffs. Granted, they won a playoff game. But,
yeah, he played way better in the playoffs. But compared to
last year, like relative to last year, he had a bad year. Mm-hmm. And Bryce Young like looks like a completely different player today than he did a year ago. Even at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, once he took over for the Red Rifle after his benching, he literally turned back into Alabama Bryce Young. Like, it was crazy. Because I was at the point where I was like, very late in that draft process, I was finally like, okay, I think Bryce Young is really good, like, the more I kept watching of him. But it took me a long time to get over the fact that he's tiny. And then after his rookie season, I was like, no, I was always right. He can't do it. He's too small. But he was making some of the best throws I saw all year last year were from Bryce Young in difficult situations.
And dude, he throws darts. Why can he throw that hard?
It does, and he could like bomb it, and he
Yeah.
he probably weighs less than I do, and he can
For
throw
sure, he weighs less than you, Ryan. He probably weighs barely more than me.
it. You think?
I mean, I'm 175. You think he weighs close to 200? I don't.
He weighed that much at the combine, but I feel like they pumped him full of like a gallon.
That
of
had to be like
Gatorade.
water weight and shit because there's no way that guy can maintain 200 pounds.
I don't think so. I think he's like 185. That's my honest guess.
Well, because also looking at him standing next to like linemen, it's almost like hilarious.
I know.
Because you're like, holy shit, this guy's so small.
The first photos I saw of him in the first preseason with the Panthers, like I thought it was photoshopped because he was doing like a bootleg, so he was kind of away from the camera a little bit, and the linemen were closer to the viewpoint, and I was like, this looks like someone took him and went like shrunk him down, but it's just what it looks like.
Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy stuff. Should we? Do you even want to make Super Bowl predictions?
Maybe we say
We could just do that next week. 'cause
Yeah.
we still have the stupid Pro Bowl
yeah,
that nobody cares about, which Russell Wilson's a Pro Bowler, along with fucking
Drake May.
Drake May. He didn't even play. Like he sat on the bench for like the first 6 games.
I know. I was trying to think of like who should make it, and I think it was like Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lamar Jackson, and 2 of those guys either opted out or are in the Super
Lamar
Bowl.
and Josh opted out.
Yeah.
Understandably so. I'd be like, fuck the Pro Bowl if I just lost.
Yeah. So I was looking at it, I was like, I mean, people laugh at that, but it's like, who in the AFC would you pick over those 2 right now? Like, I mean, Trevor,
Aiden O'Connell. Sorry.
you couldn't even finish that thought.
Yeah. I
Like,
would probably pick none of them.
Mac Jones snubbed.
No Justin Herbert. That's surprising because everyone.
I
thinks
didn't even
he's-
think about
Everyone
that.
thinks he's fucking the bee's knees, but he sucks. So
Yeah, I don't know what to think of Justin Herbert because he's been excellent.
I think he's tall.
That is true. He is very tall.
Yeah, he's tall.
He throws the ball well. But every time he's been in the playoffs, it's like people say he's the new Phillip Rivers. Like Phillip Rivers went to an AFC Championship game and played on a torn ACL. Like the guy had an incredible career. I don't particularly love him, but he was call a spade. He was a great player.
He beat Peyton Manning numerous times in the playoffs. Like he won big playoff games.
Yeah, and the Seahawks only beat him one time. He was so annoying to play against. He would get the ball out so fast. But Herbie has not done shit. Like people have that meme of like if man, and it's like him and Tua and
Or like Justin Herbert in hypothetical situations,
Yeah.
and it's Tom Brady.
yeah, it's like that the highlight of Tom Brady just like celebrating and
Yeah.
shit. Yeah. So I don't know. He's got a lot to prove because I think he's got that mega contract now, but he hasn't won shit in this league.
No, he's not. And I mean, until he proves me otherwise, he's in the doghouse for me until he wins a playoff game.
He's going to be in the doghouse for a while then because he's got like 11 months to.
And he now has, like, the Raiders aren't going to get any easier because they added a coach that knows what they're doing. So could the Chargers be the worst team in that division now? I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. I mean, but the thing is, the Raiders got so much cap space, dude. And I was okay. So this is kind of why I want to talk about Pete Carroll because to me, like, I still love Pete. So they're kind of like my AFC Seahawks coming into this next season. They could get Ashton Gianti, however you say his name, at pick 6, or they could get a top defensive player. But I think they go with Gianti because he's a, generational talent running back. If they get Wilson from the Steelers and just go back to the old playbook of run the ball shitload, play action deep, and like figure something out, make some big free agency signings on defense, like It could make the AFC West really fun. And the better the Raiders are, the less likely it is that we have to deal with Mahomes four-peat next season. So
There's no way Wilson will go on Raiders, you think?
you don't think so? He's a free agent. And he's already still getting paid
I
big
think-
bucks by the Broncos this next season.
I think there's definitely a chance with given how bad Russ's stint in Denver was.
Yeah, you don't think he wants to play the Broncos twice a year?
Well, also, you don't think he's like, oh, man, maybe Pete and I were a good match.
Yeah.
Like, that has to be running through his mind. Has to be.
It's just like he's been jumping ship so much that's not like that screams like you're gonna be a backup quarterback soon.
Well,
I
I mean,
don't know, like you just keep jumping ships. You're not established. You're not.
I think Wilson at this point in his career clearly can still do a few things really well, and you have to work within those constraints. But I don't think anyone knows that better than Pete. And I think now Russ has accepted that about himself because he played a lot more within his wheelhouse with the Steelers this last season. But, like, let's be real. That Steelers team was shit on offense. Najee Harris is bad. Their best receiver is Pickens, who, like, would rather pick a fight than catch a ball. So, like, they were never going anywhere. The Raiders got a whole roster to fill out, but I don't know. I think that could be a fun story.
Well, not to mention, no team is in bigger, like, quarterback trouble than the Raiders. Like, they don't even, like, I guess they could take a quarterback at 6, but Cam Ward and Shador are probably going to be gone by then.
Mm-hmm.
Who the hell, you're overdrafting a player at that point. So
for sure.
You can't really take a quarterback, so you might as well get a veteran. Like, a lot of people are saying Sam Darnold might go to the Raiders. Maybe, but I feel like Pete, I mean, he's 70 whatever years old. I think he's going to go with the guy he knows. That's just my guess.
Yeah.
That's what I would do if I was in my 70s.
It's going to be really fun to watch that play out. Like, it's fun to have another team that I can root for. Like, I was kind of rooting for the Commanders because of Bobby.
I mean, I was rooting for the Steelers.
I was going to say that too. Like, I never thought I would utter those words. I hated the Steelers ever since Super Bowl XL, but I was rooting for them this year. It was fun to watch. But I never really... Once they started playing the big boys and not being able to compete, I was like, they're not going anywhere this season. Their defense isn't good enough. Their offense isn't good enough. They're kind of a average to middling team.
Kind of like us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to get out of that for sure. But yeah, that's going to be really fun to watch. And also, I guess last thing we'll talk about here, Senior Bowl's happening this week. And you mentioned yesterday you heard a little story about what position group our staff is following.
Yeah, I was listening to the Brock and Salk show, actually on my way home from work. And they had Brian Nemhauser.
Yeah, that's the Hawk blogger.
The Hawk blogger. And he is down in Mobile, Alabama, watching the Senior Bowl. And apparently... his reports were that our guys, our Seahawks representatives down there, were following the linemen all throughout the day, throughout the drills. So that's very good news to hear that. It's gonna make me sleep well tonight.
Yeah, I wouldn't be sad if we took a lineman with our top 3 picks, honestly. Because this is a rare year where we actually have a pick in every round.
That is kind of weird. We never have that.
Yeah, I mean, a couple years ago we had 2 first-rounders, which is amazing. Missed those days. But, you know, all the glorious picks from the Russell Wilson trade are dried up. And fortunately, we haven't made any dumbass trades that took away a pick this year. Last year, we had the second-rounder gone for Leonard Williams.
That was worth it, though.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think he's the biggest all-pro snub this year. Like Jalen Carter. Are you fucking kidding me?
The all-pro Pro Bowl bullshit is just a joke.
It's just a bunch of bald guys on the East Coast jerking off the teams that they like. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like, I watched this for a long time now. The bias is real. But yeah, I mean, this draft, from everything I hear about it so far and what I've seen from the Senior Bowl, is like the strength of it is like 20 to 80 or so.
That's exactly what I heard. today, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's where the sweet spot is. It's not necessarily like value with the first 20 isn't like normal draft where every year like the first round is the first round and that's where all the value is.
Yeah.
It's more so stretched throughout a couple more rounds.
Yeah, and I mean that's from just the players that I recognize from paying cursory attention to college football the last few years. Like, I go back to like Prospect 100. I'm like, oh, I recognize this name here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of matches up with everything that I've seen. But yeah, I also heard like some teams only have 10 first round grades in this draft. But that's okay. I mean, you never get 32 first-round grades in any draft, really, ever. Point being, the fact that we got 3 picks within the first 3 rounds this year, I think that's going to be a big deal. And it also makes me think, like, unless there's a guy at 18 that you're dying for, like, you trade back to 26 or 27 and get another, like, third-rounder or something out of it, like, I'd take that any day of the week. Because I think it's going to take 4 guys in that 20 to 80 range to really take the leap next year.
And I know Pete's not here anymore, but that really seems like this is John Schneider's time to shine because, I mean, we always joked every year about him trading back in the first round or out of the first round. And, I mean, if all the talent is within picks 20 to 80, this seems like his calling to trade back.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And, I mean, it's funny. There's times where I've really not wanted him to trade back, and he's done it. But this is the time where I'm like, do your thing, John, because
let him cook.
Yeah, let him cook. Also, I low-key think this is a put-up-or-shut-up year for John Schneider. We've had him forever. As you're saying, we've been floating in 9 to 11 win territory for like a decade. Like, you got to get us back to the big game, and it starts with the players that you get. I think he made a great move with McDonald last year. I really believe in that guy, but we haven't even talked about Klint Kubiak, have we?
No.
New offensive coordinator. We're probably stretching the length of this one a little bit, but just quick summary. Like the hire a lot. Him and the guy from the Lions, Hank Fraley, were always my top 2.
Yeah, something I keep hearing about Klint is high floor, which something I feel like this offense needs.
I think so too, because I think we were swinging for the fences with Grubb.
Too much.
I wish it had worked out better because he had some cool stuff, and I liked him as a person a lot. He seemed really cool. But I think we just got to do that same shit that half the league is doing, because it works. But this guy has been a coordinator for a number of different teams. And everywhere he's gone, that team has played better on offense than before he took over. So I think that's a really good sign. We don't need to be top 3, top 5, but if we could be the 9th best offense, I can work with that.
We also just need to have consistency. And I think Kubiak brings that to the table. Mm-hmm. And who were the 4 teams he was with? It was like the Broncos, the Vikings.
Yeah, Minnesota, Denver, Saints, and 49ers.
49ers, right.
Yeah.
What year was he with the Niners?
I want to say it was Brock Purdy's really good season, and he was the passing game coordinator that season. So I think it was last year, not 24, but 23 season.
Interesting. Honestly, I don't know all that much about him, but the name Kubiak, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm interested.
Honestly,
not to dive into nepotism here, but I don't know these people personally. If I see the name, I like the person because I recognize what their father did.
Yeah, I don't love nepotism as a concept that human beings engage in, but I kind of like it in the NFL sometimes.
Dude, if it's with sports, you're not only talking about nepotism, you're also adding the genetics of the person that was already a pro athlete. So it's
and the grooming.
It's not black and white nepotism. And
it's also this guy watched his father do this his whole life. So you get all those lessons kind of proactively put on you your whole life. So there's something to it. Doesn't always work out, but I mean, look at, for example, 49ers head coach McCarthy.
Kyle.
Yeah, or no, sorry, not McCarthy.
Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan. Mike Shanahan was a great coach in the league for a long time. And I remember when Kyle Shanahan was just a Nepo baby offensive coordinator. Well, he's led one of the best offenses in the league for years now. So, point taken.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the hire. Can't wait to get into draft season. And I'm honestly way more excited about draft season than this fucking Super Bowl.
Fuck the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It is literally what we didn't want from the onset of the bracket.
We didn't have a choice. The fucking... I hate Travis Kelce.
You hate this?
Yeah. Actually, no, I want them to get married because they both fucking suck. So,
Well, and maybe that'll make him retire for sure.
Oh, it won't.
I don't...
What about this?
he's
He's the
fine.
only part that I like about all this.
That video I sent you of Mike Holmgren yelling at Andy Reid.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that they were on the same staff for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know. I mean, well, yeah, I guess I didn't even know that they were on the same staff because I always thought they looked similar. And that was like, oh, Andy Reid, he's like the younger version of Mike Holmgren.
Yeah.
Because, like, I remember Mike Holmgren, like, retired and Andy Reid's still moving around in the NFL. But, yeah, I'll have to throw that video up in post.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, before we leave here, Scott.
Oh, no.
I know. Keep plugging away. Hungry and humble. Hungry and humble. Hungry and humble. It's about...
That's the man tasked
You
with
know-
saving America.
Hey, 2 months ago, I would have been like, that guy is a dork. But now I'm like, well, they're in the Super Bowl, and I have to just watch. So,
It doesn't mean he's not a dork.
yeah, that's true.
But he is, I mean, he might be our savior. We'll see.
Yeah, that would be ironic, wouldn't it? We make a video making fun of him later, and then we, like, have to beg him to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah. Well, that'd be kind of nice because maybe it'd make a bunch of Eagles fans make fun of us again. Which
Yeah.
I welcome it.
Yeah, I'll step up to the plate against some Eagle haters.
All right.
Well,
I think that's all I had for this one.
Yeah, I didn't really want to brush up too much on the games last week or even the Super Bowl because we're all suffering a little bit on the inside. So,
Yeah. Then we got to have something to talk about next week. So
Yeah.
we'll save that for then.
Yep. With that, thanks for stopping by, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. Catch you next time.